derailing from their primary focus. First, their action is against, and it will be a violation of Article 13 of African Charter on Human and People's Rights. The right to freely participate in government. The word freely participate in government is what that article says. Which Nigeria is related to that particular charter. You cannot come and be imposing, making laws to criminalize non-participation in election. Should have been to conduct an audit, find out what has been causing voter apathy in Nigeria. Can you hear me?
Yes, we are together. Go ahead, Director.
To find out what is causing voter apathy. Why are Nigerians not coming out en masse to vote when it's time for elections? There should be a reason for it. Let me take it down step by step so that you follow this conversation the way I think it should be followed. Why I call it a drama that will not go anywhere. The Rivers State, for instance, Rivers State indigents voters went out to vote for who they want to be their governor and House of Assembly members. And one man sits in Aso Rock as President and Commander-in-Chief of Armed Forces and impose a state of emergency in Rivers State and suspend an elected governor, an elected House of Assembly that has a tenure of 4 years, thereby destroying or trampling on the mandate of voters in Rivers State. And then you impose someone to be there as a sole administrator. How then do you now win the confidence of voters in Rivers State when it comes to the next election? Who will go out there and vote? When you vote and your vote is not counted. That is the first instance I want to draw. I said before that Nigerians, on the security agent, the judiciary, the political talks, political parties take the higher percentages in terms of the role they play. And in fact, the judiciary plays the highest role, and then INEC. So when you vote out of 100%, so the 90% are taken away by these particular persons I have mentioned: security agents, the political party, political talk, the INEC, and judiciary. The revised ought to be the case where the voters ought to have 90% role to play, and then the rest of the persons will not share 10%. But this is not what it is. So even when you vote as a voter, does your vote count? Those who have been emerging as elected, do their elections reflect the collective will of the voters? Those who are imposed on the citizens by court through judiciary, do they actually reflect the collective will of voters? Do we have food on our table to eat today? Is our government truly giving us democratic dividend? Have we seen the dividend? Do you have a reason to go out there to vote? Do you have security, which is in the first line charge of a government to provide? Do you have security? Have you not heard what happened in Edo State, where the vigilante now resorted to self-help, which is condemnable, by killing innocent citizens who were traveling through Edo State to the north because of frequent and incessant banditry in Edo State? Have you not seen the lack of good road network? Have you not seen that our public health facilities have collapsed? Have you not also heard or seen that our children can no more attend public schools? What then have we benefited from the government that emerged through elections? These are what caused voter apathy, that the government or the senators and reps ought to look out and begin to address. Rather than coming from it's a criminal offense or one not there to vote. When you judge what happened in the last election that we had, you could see that voters don't even matter. I saw a lady who was brutalized in Lagos State with blood stain on her face. She went out there to vote. Did her vote counted at the end of the day? Did she feel better that she actually voted and her vote count? You can see people going out there, old women, we know, old men drunk out to vote in the last election. The final outcome of the election reflects their collective will. This is what the Senate and the rest should be thinking about, not coming to add salt on injury. So I think that they are eating more than they can chew. They have aided in destroying our democratic, our governance in the country. Look at how they are living in affluence. They are buying jeeps, riding on affluence, and we are suffering here. How many people can actually eat 2 meals a day? If you have one, thank God. People have become scavengers, eating from dustbin, from refuse dump. People have become beggars, begging from bus stops, from traffic lights, from shops, and the rest. And the crime rate has increased. Robbery is on a daily basis. When you have bad governance, you have what? Increase in crime. So what then would be the factor to motivate people to go out there and vote? This is what I think should have been of interest to the Senate and the rest, who have become a rubber stamp to Mr. President.
Serious concerns. Very serious concerns you've raised here, Director Otuekong Franklin, on the different issues.
What they are doing will not, mark my word, can never fly, because you cannot come and, how do you even enforce it? How do you start enforcing it? Will you go house to house to check who don't come out to vote?
Okay.
Will you now begin to go house to house to check when you ought to be in your own polling unit to vote? You can see that they are just wasting public funds in doing nothing.
Okay, so Director, I have a question, and that question will come from what a parliamentarian has commented on our social media platform. Parliamentarian Megaibu says, "Good morning, Mr. Speaker. If Nigerians' law were applied equally to the rich and the poor, I would support jailing those who don't vote in elections, because politicians' children would fill the prisons if that were the case. However, I believe it is essential to encourage people to vote and ensure their votes count. When citizens see that their votes make a difference, they will voluntarily participate in elections without needing to be forced. Therefore, I strongly oppose any law that makes any voting compulsory with penalties like imprisonment for non-compliance." Thank you. That's coming from Parliamentarian Undemocratic. Now, you've highlighted some of these things that is happening. Let's go to the capacity of INEC as the electoral umpire. Do we even have capacity to register the generality of voters, eligible voters in Nigeria? And I'm saying that, I'm asking that question based on the fact that even as we speak, there are people who are in their 30s, in their 40s, people who just turned 18, who could not register during the last round of voter registration. Those who registered, but till today, have not been able to get their voter's card. So, if the institution responsible for conducting election has not made it possible for every eligible voter in Nigeria to have a voter's card, how can we then think about making sure that everybody votes?
If you ask me, going back to National Assembly are not really engaging the citizens. One would have thought that upon emergence as National Assembly, part of their duty include constituency briefing, regular interaction, town hall meetings, meeting with your constituents to find out what they think on issues and how they fare. How many of them have returned back home to engage their citizens? How many of them have been able to go back to do town hall meetings? What this bill you are even saying, have they come back to ask us how we feel about it? That is the point. So you can see that they are just embarking on a huge, waste of time. Because how will you even enforce it? On election day, everyone ought to be in their homes, in their polling unit rather, to vote. You ought to vote in your polling unit. No movement is allowed. So will you now move house to house to know who is in the house or who hasn't voted? Who are you to do that? That is the point. So you mentioned the issue of voters registration. Of course, the INEC has been completed in their duties. INEC has not been very firm. INEC hide under one loophole or the other that we have in our laws, simply because after elections there is no auditing of INEC. I raised this issue in your sister program. Until we begin to have a law that will make INEC to be proved. After elections, you prove. From 1999 till date, I have never had any INEC being proved. It's after elections, and INEC will ask for billions. Whatever INEC asks for is released up front. Whatever INEC is one commission that these funds are not lacking. It's one type of fund. Whatever fund they ask for is given to them. Because politicians see them as the vehicle to climb to political offices. So their funds are given to them first line charge. Now when INEC receive funds and billions, and then after elections, INEC is not being proved. You could see that INEC could connect and do whatever INEC want to do. I've not seen any former INEC chairman being called to come and give account of stewardship. In fact, the only free and fair contest we have had in this country was the NEC, headed by Professor Humphrey Wosu, that is a 1993 contest, which Abiola won. You see, so the rest of it, from 1990 to today, which INEC has been free and fair, which of them? They are all compromised. That's the truth about it. I have told you that the role that INEC played is key. You see, INEC will declare result without even going out there without even to tally the result that you declare and what is created in your IREF. You have all these issues. So INEC is complicit. INEC is complicit, and there is need for a total reform in INEC. And let's even leave INEC. The politicians are using INEC as a tool to get into their offices, and after which INEC is just being there as a tool. Today in court, which of the aggrieved person who lost election can actually prove his case in court today? When you file your petitions in court, the law expects you, the person who petitioned, to prove your case. When INEC is in custody of all the
Okay, seem to be having a little bit of.
INEC is the examiner. INEC is the one that straight to you. So a device whereby INEC is made to be case, and therefore INEC is complicit in the whole thing that we have had, in the bad content that we have had in these elections that we've had before, in both previously and the ones we will have in future. Keep on having review, keep on having reforms. It makes no sense until INEC is going to be held accountable. So the law that the National Assembly is attempting to do will not go anywhere because it violates Nigerian constitutional rights of citizens. The right that you have is a given right, and no one can compel you on your own right. For instance, you have the right to wear clothes. It's your right. You can choose to wear it. You can choose not to wear it. It's your right. That's the truth about it. So nobody is going to enforce it on you that you must do what is already your own right. And so the Senate and the rest have lost focus. Instead of thinking of how to put food on our table, they're thinking of how to distract our attention with so much of drama that we have had there. Okay, imagine what happened in Rivers State, for instance, when our constitution is very clear. Section 305 has clearly mentioned that when emergency rule is imposed on a state, the National Assembly will, through a two-thirds majority, rectify it. Now the Senate and the Rep use voice vote. How do you then use voice vote to qualify two-thirds majority? So these are the issues that they are killing our democracy, and then they want to come through the back door to force the Nigerians to go out there to vote. Vote for what? Vote for what? What are you going to show as evidence of democracy in Nigeria? Is it bad governance? Is it the breach of our constitution? That is the point. So the law that they are trying to do won't go anywhere. I see it as a mere distraction that they want to use to divert our attention from the major issue, which is the issue of bad governance that we have had in this country. Since coming on board, of the 10th National Assembly, we have had several protests in this country over issue of governance, over issue of hunger, NLC protests, and citizen protests. Have you had the National Assembly come out to address us? Have you had them coming out to engage Nigerians and find out why we are protesting? They have not. So why then would they think that making a law to force us to go and vote will change the issue? It won't change any issue until they are able to trace the issue to the root of it, which is bad governance. Nigerians will continue to experience voter apathy during our elections.
Okay. So the next person who's going to fire the next question is Parliamentarian of Honor Joseph.
Director, still talking about the electorate vote counting. We know that the voters actually go through a lot to vote for the persons aspiring for any political position, and most of us are willing to vote. But sometimes we feel that our votes do not count. But the INEC